Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to make a Christmas stocking today. I've actually made two different stockings in two different fabrics because I wanted you to see how different your stocking can look just depending on the fabric that you choose. I've gone for a really traditional kind of red and cream for one of them. And then I've gone for something a little bit more unusual in this Alexander Henry kind of nativity Day of the Dead scene with the other one. I got both of my fabrics from Fabrics Galore. There's one in Kingston, the pop-up store in Kingston Market House, and then there's also one in Clapham, and I'll pop a link below so you can check out all their Christmassy fabrics. And just hope you enjoy the video and have a really, really good Christmas. First, you're going to need to get your materials ready. You're going to need a ruler, pen, fabric scissors, paper, scissors, thread and pins. You'll need paper for your pattern, and I'm sticking two pieces of A3 paper together to make it big enough because it's quite a big pattern. And also your fabric. I wanted to use a Christmas fabric that wasn't so obvious, something a bit different, so I've gone for this gorgeous Alexander Henry Day of the Dead nativity theme. It's a really nice weight cotton, and I've chosen a nice snowy white cotton for my lining and cuff to go with it. Making your pattern piece is really personal preference of how you want it to look. I drew a bit of a back to front L shape, starting with one vertical rectangle and then a horizontal smaller rectangle for the foot, and dipped it down a bit at the toe. I then rounded off the edges until I was just happy with my shape. I've included 1 centimetre seam allowance in the whole pattern, and the length of my stocking is 53 centimetres. The width along the top is 25 centimetres. The width of the toe is 22 centimetres, and from the curve in the top of the foot to the heel is 27.5 centimetres, and the length of the foot is 42 centimetres. This is my pattern piece for the cuff of the stocking. It's 48 centimetres including seam allowance for the length, and that's by 24 centimetres for the width. The last pattern piece is the loop that you'll be hanging your stocking by. It's 24 centimetres long by 4 centimetres across. I'm going to start with my stocking cuff, so that's with my white cotton fabric. I think I'm going to line it up with the selvage edge of my fabric, because then I know it is definitely straight. But all you need to do is, when you're placing your pattern on the fabric, make sure the straight edges of your pattern are going in line with the grain lines of your fabric. Next is the stocking lining, again in my white cotton. This time I've folded the fabric in half, so I'm going to be pinning through the pattern piece and 2 layers of fabric, and then you just need to cut out around the pattern piece. With my main fabric, I have to be aware of how I'm placing the pattern pieces because of the type of design on my fabric. I want to make sure I get the Mary and Joseph bit in the toe of my stocking. I also wanted to get the 3 wise men in the top. I'm cutting my 2 main fabric pieces out individually to make sure I get the best parts of the print on my stocking. And if your fabric doesn't have such a spaced out design, or it's plain or more repetitive, you could just double up the layers like you did before with the lining. If, like me, you're cutting your main fabric pieces separately instead of together, make sure you don't end up with 2 feet facing the same way. They need to be opposites, so after you've marked out the first piece, make sure you flip the pattern before marking out the second piece. Next we're going to pin and cut out the stocking loop. You need to press over 1/2 centimetre along each length of the rectangle, then press in half, then stitch along the folded edge. Pin the cuff piece in half and sew. Press open the seams, then fold the cuff in half, wrong sides together so you can see the right sides of the fabric, and press. Sorry, my camera went a little bit out of focus here. I hope you can still see. You need to pin the lining pieces together for the stocking, the wrong sides together. Leave the top edge of your stocking open, and on one side of your stocking foot, start sewing from there. Do a little back stitch. Sew from one side of your stocking down to the sole of the foot. Do a little back stitch to finish that off, so you can leave a gap of about 10 centimeters, and then start it again, do another little back stitch and continue going around the stocking until you reach the top of the other side of the leg. Do the same for your main fabric and stitch all the way around your stocking. Leave the top edge open, and this time you don't need to leave a gap in the foot. Snip little triangles out of all the curved edges of your stocking pieces to help create a smooth finish when you turn your stocking through. Then press the seams open where you've left a hole in the lining, and press all the seams open of the main fabric stocking for a neat finish there too. You can leave the lining fabric stocking as it is, but with the main fabric stocking, you need to turn that through and give it a really good press. Also, just really try and get those seams pulled out so it's got a really nice, neat finish at the end as well. Place the cuff around the top of the main fabric stocking. Pin it in place matching with the stocking side seam to the cuff seam. Pin the loop to the side seam. Put the whole thing inside the stocking lining. Line up the seams one at a time, remove an existing pin and repin in the same place to include the lining. At this point, if your machine allows it, you might want to remove part of it just to make it a little bit easier to sew. You can stitch now all the way around the top edge of the stocking, and that's going to be 1 centimetre in from the edge. Trim down the excess and turn the stocking through the gap in the lining. Pin and sew the lining closed.